Good morning. This is Women Talk Construction, and we're so excited to be here with you today. And we are interviewing someone who lives right in the same county that we do right now. So we don't get to do that very often. So we're excited about that. The weather is beautiful today and a little warm, but we are excited to be just collaborating together and talking about the construction industry in a way that not everybody gets to do every single day. So today, Angela Gardner is with me. Angela, hi, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm great.
Good, good. And I want to introduce just a short introduction because she's going to talk about herself just for a few minutes. We have Kerri Paulino with us. She's a seasoned home building executive with over 20 years of experience in the industry. She knows a lot about products, she knows a lot about owners, and she knows a lot about buildings. So we're really excited to hear from her today. Kerri, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Christi. Thank you, Angela. I'm so happy to be here.
So tell us just a little bit about yourself. They're going to be able to read your bio on the internet, on our website, everywhere that we're going to have your podcast, which is a million places. But just give us a brief explanation of what you do and the impact that you're making on the industry.
Sure. So, as you said, as you had led in, I am currently the division president of Meritage Homes here in Greenville, South Carolina. And I have been in the construction industry for my entire life, almost 21 years now. I actually started in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is where I'm from, as a college intern. So I interned with Ryan Homes prior to graduating from undergrad, and then have sort of been in multiple different markets, multiple different states, multiple different roles as I have tried to build my career towards this role that I am currently in. And so it has been crazy and fun. And I have learned so much along the way. But currently in Greenville, I have a wonderful team. We have about 90 people within our division. And division president roles, for those of you that are unfamiliar in the new construction side of the business, essentially run the entire P&L for that market. So in our division here in Greenville, I oversee purchasing, construction, sales, marketing, finance, starts, customer care, sort of the entire operation here in Greenville. And we're really excited. We have a big year in front of us. We will sell, build, and close over 1,000 homes this year, which is awesome because we're coming out of a relatively small geography in Greenville. So super big milestone year for us. The team is very, very pumped up and excited to hit it.
Awesome. So great. So great. Yeah. I just have to throw a plug out there for 84 Lumber. Meritage is one of our best customers, and we appreciate what you do every day. And the fact that you collaborate with us and let us supply your needs is pretty amazing. So let's dive in just a little bit to learn a little bit more about you. There are very few female division vice presidents or presidents in home building. What did your journey look like? You told us a little bit about it just a minute ago. And what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
So, yeah, my journey over the last 2 decades, it has definitely not been a linear path. I really sort of had to chart my own course in this, because when I started this 20 years ago, and Christi, you and I talked about this when we met, a few months ago. There were very few, if any, female leaders in this industry of any function. Right. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I started in the sales side of the business. We had almost an entirely female sales team, but the leaders were male. And of every single function, it could be that same story. So I started in this business not seeing a female leader of really anything anywhere. And so I really was just never sure if I could make it, because I had never seen anyone go before me and actually do it. So I think one of the big challenges was, as I was charting this path and this career, was, how do I get people to take me seriously? And how do I get people to put me in the consideration set when they are looking at leaders for different functions and different roles. And I think that has just been a really big challenge. And I know that that has been a big challenge for a lot of people, a lot of my peers and a lot of my colleagues who came up in this business when there really just weren't a lot of female leaders to look at, right? And to point to and say, hey, she did this. And if she can do this, so can I.
Yeah.
And so I think those have been really big challenges over the past 2 decades that I've had to figure out how to navigate, and how to, make my own way in this in a way that gets people to take notice and take me seriously that I can do this. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And you're leading the way for others to follow behind you now. So
Yes.
they're not going to be in the same boat you are. They are going to be able to see women who are leading and how they got there, right? Because you're willing to share. And I think that's one thing that we really need to let our audience know too, is it's so important, women that have made it, for you to share what you're doing so that others can see the path forward so that they can be in the same role if they ever want to someday. Yep. So just wanted to throw that out there for the audience.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And just to keep this conversation going, why do you think women, they don't see themselves in those executive leadership roles? Why do they think that in construction?
I think for exactly what we were just saying, it's few and far between where you see a female who has sort of walked the same walk as you and gotten to levels, these executive leadership levels. And so I think that that's just really, really hard, right? Because you just go through, like, I know I felt over the past 20 years, like, I'm going to keep going and I'm going to keep trying, but I have no idea if I will ever make it. And I have no idea if this is going to pay off. And that's scary. So I think the thing that holds people back is it holds women back. It holds men back. It's just fear, right? You have fear that you won't make it. You have fear that you're going to waste all this time and all this energy and all this effort for no reason. And you have fear that you're going to let people down. And so I think that that's it. And so you can minimize the fear by exactly what Christi just said, looking to other people that have done it, learning from their stories and making the connections in your mind that, you know what, if she did it, I can do this too. And I know for me, this has been, a very scary journey. I've had to make a lot of kind of unconventional moves in this, some very risky moves. And I think for me, kind of the fear of not making it was greater than the fear of the pain that I know I was going to have to go through along this journey. Right?
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
And that's really it. Like, I just kept going because I was so fearful that I wasn't going to make it. I don't know how else to explain it. It just
I love it.
Propelling you forward.
Yeah, that was your drive, right? To keep pushing, even though you didn't see somebody else in front of you, that looked like you doing it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So women have a ton of advantages being in this industry. And for the longest time, I'm 33 years in, right? For the longest time, I'm not sure you could have told me there were advantages of being in this industry. But as I matured and I saw the difference between the kind of customers I had and the kind of customers my male counterparts had, and how those effective projects completed.
Yes.
I was starting to see the difference in just the advantage of being a woman, right? My customers were bringing homeowners into the store and saying, you do whatever you need to do. Tell me what the budget needs to be. I'll put the bid together and we'll make sure this custom home is where it needs to be for them. Like, I would pick out windows. I would put the budget together. I would actually talk to the homeowners about, okay, so this is the budget. And if you use these windows, and like, how long are you going to live in your home? And they would tell me, and I'd be like, oh, forever. So these are the windows I would recommend because you're going to be in that home forever. Do you want to spend $10,000 more on an upgrade if you're only going to be there a couple of years? Maybe not. So I would have those conversations with them. So with that being said, I want to ask you, what advantages do you think women have in this industry?
So I think that we have so many advantages that I just don't understand why there are not more women in some of these leadership roles, because I really think the cards are stacked in our favor in a lot of ways. One of the things that I have seen in my team and teams that I've worked with in the past is, I've seen a lot of females have a level of humility that is extremely helpful. In that I've seen so many women that do not have to be right. They don't have to be the loudest one in the room. But what it does is it creates this, sense of determination and grit that is very, very helpful, right? Because they want to do a good job. They want to get it done. And without introducing an ego into the mix, it allows people to be really, really good because you listen, you learn, right? You don't have hubris that gets you sidetracked or doesn't allow you to hear or see what is actually happening. And it's not that I'm not saying that that men are not humble, but I have seen that trait more prevalently in females that I work with. And I think that it is so incredibly helpful and tangible, and allows them to really do the absolute best job possible because they are not clouded by some of the ego traits that tend to get in the way. So I think that is very helpful. In addition, I think sort of what you had said before, Christi, I think women naturally are really good at making connection. And this business, exactly what you just described, right? How helpful is that in a sales process when you make a really, really good connection with your potential buyer? Right. And I think women sort of tend to naturally do that. And I see that all the time, whether it's customer facing or so many times internally. Business gets done with other people. And I think that, being quick to connect with someone to find a way to get to common ground when it's not even about the business that's taking place is so incredibly helpful. And I think a lot of times I see the women in my office doing this so naturally, right? They'll connect about something outside of the office, their children, same stage of life, whatever it may be. And that's really the launching pad for a long-term trusting relationship. And I think that comes very naturally to us, to a lot of us. And I think that is extremely helpful. And the last thing that I would say is that I have seen females in this industry be just phenomenal at multitasking, right? Multitasking outside, with their home life, their personal life, and their professional life, like literally getting it all done, a million balls in the air, juggling everything beautifully. Even though if you kind of feel like you're a hot mess behind the scenes, you're just kind of keeping this train going no matter what. And I see that with the females on my team all the time, just the ability to juggle and manage and not get discouraged by sort of the messiness of it and just keep pushing through. I mean, and there's a million other things I could go on and on.
No, there is.
There's so many kind of just natural traits that come to us that I really feel like the cards are stacked in our favor.
Right. So I definitely feel like that. I did not feel like that when I first got into the industry. I felt like I had to overprove myself.
Agreed.
Right. Overproduce. So, how do we best magnify these traits that women have in each other? So I know that you do this very well. I know that Angela and I, what we do every day is sharing stories of women and their successes and how good they are at what they do. That's a great way to do it. But how do you do that? How do you magnify that those gifts in each other when it comes to the women that are working with you?
Yeah, I think that it's, obviously, as you said, sharing stories, but I think it just comes down to really authentic appreciation, right? Yeah. So I think if you really appreciate the job that people are doing, it comes out so naturally, whether it's a female, a male, doesn't really matter. But I think it's just the authentic acknowledgement of the fact that they are doing a really, really good job. And I think it's in a way that the person hears it most. Some people, I think you can just tell they are not hey, walk me across the stage and give me, the big trophy. Some people are. right? And you kind of feel like,
Right.
you need to trumpet them and you need to shout their accomplishments from the rooftops. Other times it's just going and sitting in someone's office and being like, hey, you rocked it. You crushed that. You did such a good job. And so I think that it's the intentional acknowledgement of individuals sort of right in the moment when they're doing something that is, that's really, really special. And I also think, and I have seen this a lot of times and it's very disheartening. I do think that there's sort of a mean girls facet that is real,
sure.
and it's unfortunate. Right. And I don't know why we have this, but we do. And so I think it's, again, being really intentional about that. I've had for the last, several teams that I've been on, I've highly encouraged everyone to read a book called Wolfpack by Amy Wambach. It's phenomenal. It's this quick read, this little book. Amy is a professional soccer player. She is a very vocal individual about pay equality for women in sports. And I'm not athletic. I don't even understand the rules of soccer, but her message is so loud and clear about creating a tribe and a pack of females around you, especially as you go throughout different stages of your career. And it's really being a champion for each other as opposed to, kind of the tendency, which could be just a natural tendency to sort of cut each other down. It's really being so intentional about building each other up. And so that's just one book. There are many of them, but I think that we have to fight that stigma, whether true or not, of kind of that mean girls mentality.
Agree.
Oh yeah. I love that. I'm gonna definitely have to look up Wolfpack and give it a read. Yeah.
So good.
And speaking of books, because the next thing we're going to talk about is encountering setbacks in our career. And I know that I've done that several times. And in fact, Christi and I are reading the book Let Them by Mel Robbins.
Oh, it's so good.
It is so good.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
And then I'm also reading the book Essentials. I can't remember that author. I think it's Greg something.
McGowan?
Yeah, that's it. Or, well, something like that.
It's something like that.
But speaking of setbacks, when you have encountered these, what exactly did you do? And were there specific mindsets that you had to employ to moving forward? Because I know I certainly had to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so hard for all of us, right? I think for me, I'm very fortunate in that I think I just naturally am a resilient person. I came up through the sales side of the business. I see a lot of resiliency in sales team members, and maybe that's why I gravitated towards this as the first part of my career. So I'm very fortunate that I just kind of have that mindset. But for me, what's helped me has been, I have always sort of been married to the goal. Like I wanted to be a division president. The path in which to get there, I was essentially less concerned with. What I mean is if path A didn't work, okay, fine. I'm going path B. I think I'm on path like J or N at this point. But it was more like I am getting to this goal no matter what. And there was a million roadblocks, right? And I had to make these unconventional moves, move all across the country to try to get this thing done. But the mentality was, it's not about the path, it's about the final destination. And I am just generally of the mindset that if you throw enough energy at anything, you're going to make it work.
You are. Like, that is true.
Just will. So I will out energy anybody. Like anything they had to do, I will, nights and weekends and off the side of my desk. It doesn't matter. I will just throw enough energy at this thing that something will move, right? Might not be the path that I am currently on, but something's going to move in this.
It's moving.
It keeps moving. And I think that the mentality is if the goal means that much to you, which for me, this one, it did, that you just keep putting energy into it and you just keep going.
Our audience is going to love this. Yes.
So I've often been asked this question. And that's such a great, one of my favorite sayings is if you're committed and you're consistent, you're going to be successful at whatever you do. And that's what you're talking about. That's the energy that you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nights, weekends, thinking it through over and over and over again. Is there a better way? That is consistence and being committed. But if you had to do it all over again, and I've been asked this question a lot, so I'm anxious to see what you have to say about this. What would you do differently? And then what advice would you give to those young ladies that are watching you right now?
Yeah. This is, I could do hours on this probably about the things that I wish I could have done differently. But I think I wish I would have realized up front that this was going to be incredibly difficult. I don't think I knew that. I think I had a sense, but it would have been so much more helpful to me personally if from the get-go, I would have been like, okay, Kerri, this is going to be a doozy, right? This is going to be hard and this is going to be painful and you're going to have to make a ton of different sacrifices. So I could have like mourned that and gotten my head around it early on.
That's a good point.
Because I think and part of it, might be a blessing in that you sort of kind of go through this naively or innocently and thinking like, hey, it's all going to be fine and it's all going to be roses. So when something happens that is unintended or you don't foresee, it's really hard, right?
Yeah,
it's really personally hard. And I think I wish I would have known how hard this was going to be in the beginning. And I did. So when I started out in this, I kind of was very much enamored by this division president role, even back when I was an intern. And I think I was so enamored by it because it was so different from a normal trajectory in that normally, you start in your world, whether you're in purchasing or construction or finance or whatever it is, and you get the first job and then you move up a little bit and then you get the next job and more responsibility and then more people under you. But you're kind of in this one lane, right? And that's completely fine. And it's wonderful. And you keep going up and up and up. But the thing that intrigued me about this division president role was you do that, but then all of a sudden, one day, you're now over like 7 different functions and you don't know those functions as well as the one that you came up in. Yeah. And the reason I was so enamored by it, I'm like, whoa, how awesome does that person have to be? And how much confidence does the company have to have in them to be like, you know what, you go ahead, you manage this whole thing. And so I say that to say that I kind of early on in my career, I had voiced that this is what I wanted to do. And I had a lot of people tell me, hey, this is going to be really hard. People are not necessarily going to take you seriously in this. And I heard them, but I didn't really hear them, if that makes sense. Right. And I really wish I would have internalized that earlier. And then my advice is that I think that I would say that that ideally you want to set yourself up to be seen as someone that can do anything, right? Mm-hmm. So I learned very early on, if I wanted to expand outside of sales, I needed people to look at me outside of that sales swim lane and say, hey, you know what? She could probably handle X, Y, and Z, some other function, some other task, some other responsibility. And I had to very carefully curate that throughout my career. I had to make leaps into other functions. I had to push myself into outside of my comfort zone and into things that I absolutely did not understand at all so that I could learn it. And it was uncomfortable and it was hard. But I think the goal is, and I would, my advice would be, do the things that are hard, but that allow you to be seen as someone who can do anything. Because when I look at my team right now and I'm looking for the next leader, the next this or next that, I don't really care what function they're currently in. My thought is, who can do this, right?
Right.
Who can do anything? Who do I know I can throw in and they are going to be successful? Yeah. And I think that that's hard because you got to get outside of your comfort zone. You got to get outside of your swim lane. But when you can do that, you really can set yourself apart from your peers because people start to look at you differently.
Yeah. Wow. Our audience is absolutely going to love this conversation.
Yes,
I know it because it's so different than what we've had in the past. it's an added value in all the advice.
Mhm.
Thanks for joining Women Talk Construction, guest. We hope this conversation has left you inspired for sure. Don't forget to connect, share, and subscribe to our episodes. And also remember Kerri's grit and determination. And remember, it's not the path, it's the goal. So, Kerri, why don't you leave with our audience how to get in touch with you?
Sure. So you can hit me up on LinkedIn, just Kerri Paulino on LinkedIn, or you can email me, completely fine as well. It's my name, Kerri, Kerri Paulino, Paulino at meritagehomes.com.
Thank you so much, Kerri, for being on today. Our audience is going to absolutely love this conversation. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you.